Today, Jeffrey's objectives are to persuade listeners to adopt your viewpoint or ideas, or to take some action, appeal to the audience's interests, use logic and emotion to support your position. This is Project 9, Persuade with Power. This will be Jeffrey's 43rd time doing this speech on Project 9 out of the Competent Communicator Manual.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Yes, Jeffrey's on his 51st speech. And probably again, like you said, he's done this one a few times, but I always look forward to Jeffrey's speeches. And this one, I think, is going to be a good one. He intends to persuade us with power. So perhaps we will all be leaving here today, heading to the travel agency. I'm not sure. But his speech today is Take Your First Cruise. Jeffrey?
In keeping with the theme of today's meeting, your backyard, I'd like you to imagine that the entire world is your backyard. And if that entire world is your backyard, wouldn't you like to be able to take the best vacation you could possibly take with the entire world as your backyard? That's what we're going to cover today. Because at the end of this presentation, you will all be excited to take your first cruise. Starting in 2005 with my first cruise that my wife took approximately 20 years talking me into, I was a convert. Isn't that funny? It takes 20 years to talk me into it, fell in love instantly. Makes you wonder why I was so slow, but that's another story. I'm going to share with you 3 important tips for taking your first cruise. I'm going to share stories of why you want to take your first cruise. Let's start off with the first and most important tip. No Italian cruise lines, captain, by Italian captains. Yes, this is the Costa Concordia, my friends, that happened to sink this past year because the captain was showing off for his girlfriend or something. I don't know what the story is, but we have all learned an important lesson. Leaders lead from the front. When there is danger, leaders off the ship first. There's none of this captains going down with the ship anymore. All right, that's not really your first tip. This really is your first tip. Choose a Big 5 cruise line. The interesting thing about cruising is there's a lot of cruise lines out there, just a lot. And I would encourage you to, for your first cruise, pick one of these in front of you. Now, what's interesting is this simple list has a lot of hidden information into it. From top to bottom, Holland America to Carnival Cruises is generally the most expensive cruise to the least expensive. From top to bottom is generally a cruise that caters to adults. Holland America especially caters to adults of a certain affluent 45 and above age range, to catering to children, with Royal Caribbean in the middle. These cruise lines, in my opinion, because I have been on all of them except Norwegian, which I'm going on this fall, are also in order of my perception of how well organized the cruises are. So it's almost the category of you get what you pay for. Now, speaking of the category you get what you pay for, here is why you want to take a cruise. A cruise can be your most expensive vacation you ever take, or the cheapest. And that can be on the very same cruise. I remember our first Caribbean cruise put together by my brother. I had a balcony stateroom because I'm greedy and because I like a balcony and because my wife insists. So we were paying for a week-long cruise. I think it was about $1,300, all-inclusive. Cruise prices generally are all-inclusive. My brother got the cheapest interior stateroom located right beside the engine where he could hear the thumping of the engines himself. He did the same cruise we did for $350. Same 7-day cruise. Here's the fascinating thing. We both had a great time. Everybody has a great time on a cruise. It doesn't matter where you're located. I like to happen to have a balcony room because I like to actually sit outside and look at the ocean, look at the shore, look at wherever we are. But most of the people that go cruising with me choose to save money and have interior rooms. They have just as good a time. So if you want an inexpensive cruise, that's there. You want an expensive cruise with all the amenities, that's available too. You cannot beat the price. Tip number 2. Let me see if I can do this. By the way, I'm so amazed that this PowerPoint presentation is actually working. Just want you to know. I'm a techno geek, and I'm always amazed how often these things don't work. Choose a warm weather cruise. Now, I've been cruising all over the world. Been to Alaska, been to the Baltic, been to the Caribbean, been to Mexican Riviera, the Mediterranean. I lose count. However, if you're going to go on your first cruise, you want to go on a cruise in an area where the competition is fierce. That keeps the prices down. And that's the Caribbean or the Mexican Riviera, where you have warm weather, because that extends the options for what you want to do. For example, if you're in the Baltic and you come to a port, you pretty much have to take one of the standard shore excursions, because you don't speak the language, you have no idea where to go, you're kind of stuck. But in one of these cruises, you speak the language, everybody in the Caribbean speaks English, you can see the island right in front of you and realize it's barely bigger than the ship. So you can take an excursion, or you can just get off the boat as we do, go find a beach and sit out and enjoy it for a while. So for your first cruise, I encourage you, take a warm weather Caribbean, Mexican Riviera. Nice thing about Mexican Riviera, by the way, you can just drive down to LA, get on the boat there. You don't even need to get airfare. I have done that, and they're a lot of fun. Tip number 3, choose a huge ship. Now, this probably is going to date some of us. Does anybody remember the show The Love Boat? The Love Boat. Come on, you know the words. Soon we'll be taking another run. Come on, everybody, this is karaoke time. Here's the interesting thing. That was a ship of, it was a Princess Cruise Line, the idea was, and it was a ship of about 60,000 gross tons. There's hardly ships that small even sailing anymore. That's how much the cruise industry has changed in 20 years. Ships are gigantic now, and you want to pick a huge ship. Why? Entertainment options. If you're on a small ship, you'll have one small showroom. You may have one other entertainment option. I have been on ships where at night I have a choice at the same time of the main show, an ancillary show, a comedy show, dancing in 2 different venues, all at the same time. Folks, on a big ship, you cannot find an opportunity not to have fun. If you are not having fun on a cruise, you are dead. It's not possible. So, if you get a big ship, a huge ship for your first cruise, you will never lack for fun things to do. Now, once you become a cruise expert, sometimes you can go to these special cruises and experience that. But for your first one, choose a big ship. My friends, if you follow these tips, your first cruise will be as exciting as mine, and you too will become a cruise lover just like me.